During the course of my time, I've engaged with various types of narcissists in different shapes, in different form, in different countries, and I've come to realize something in particular. A few things I've come to realize about narcissists. The first thing I've come to realize is narcissism is demonic. So this whole thing you're dealing with, um, as regards narcissistic abuse, everything is spiritual. And for the guys who are involved and who are being attacked, you're actually in some form of a spiritual attack. You're being attacked spiritually. Now, there is also maybe psychological, maybe medical ways or scientific ways to think about this. Everyone has got their own opinion, and their opinions are also valid depending on where they're getting it from and who they're talking to at that moment. But for a person like me who has gone through a very rude awakening, I've come to realize that actually narcissism, number one, is demonic. So this whole entire thing is it's warfare. So this is spiritual warfare, a really a very serious spiritual warfare. The second thing I've come to realize about narcissists is the narcissists are very fragile. You know what I mean? They've got a very fragile ego. So you may be out there thinking that they are so powerful and they are, they're all these mighty guys and everything. Like they've always made you to believe that they are so powerful. You know what I mean? It's like they're on top of the world and they're these big guys and very rich and whatever with big muscles and everything. Inside the narcissist, you're dealing with the balloon. So you're dealing with a person, individual who is full of air. There's nothing in there. There's no soul. There's no empathy. There's no feelings. There's no emotion. It's just a walking ball of negative energy, like I've told you guys in my video yesterday. Another thing I've come to discover about narcissistic abuse is it is very possible to heal. So for the most of you guys who are out there, you're struggling. I know where you're coming from. I've also walked that healing journey, ladies and gentlemen. It has been 3 years now into my healing journey, and I've really discovered that it's very impossible. It's very possible to heal after abuse. So do not start beating yourself up. Look at the guys who have been there. We shall teach you everything you need to know, and you'll understand that it's very possible to heal. But you have got to do some things. There's a process that you need to go through when you're trying to heal from abuse, because I've told you guys this thing is very, very difficult to heal from. Now, I would like to talk about that moment when that person, that individual, the knock, starts aging. We won't talk about the aging, when they start aging or gradually they start aging. There is going to come a time when they're going to burn out. The reason why they are burning out, I'll give you two particular reasons why they're actually burning out. The first reason why they are burning out is because, of course, a couple of years ago, they were teenagers, they were very strong, they had this personality, this developed, I don't know what they call it, developed sort of personality. And they had these things they had adopted as a way of survival so that they would be able to do all those things that they have continuously been doing to so many people, I mean, all over the world. But you see, as the time goes on, so they start to age and they lose this vigor. There's this vigor, when you're a kid, when you're a small kid, you have a lot of energy, you know what I mean? You are flamboyant and everything. You are all over the place. You have some muscles, the six packs and whatever. The ladies, they have got all these bodies and everything, you know what I mean? So they are using their body as a vessel to carry them into these situations that they have been involved with so that they can be able to attract even sometimes more victims, or sometimes they have always had a lot of strength um, that they have always used to support that image they have already created and built for themselves. Now, as the time goes on, this particular individual, the narcissist, starts to become very fragile. So they do not have the power. That is number one. The six packs are gone. The tattoos are faded out. They used to have a lot of those tattoos. So the ladies will come around jumping on them that, oh, I like that tattoo and I like this tattoo, all those kind of things. Everything has started fading out. They are aging with time. So they no longer have um, that power that they used to have to. Now remember that we are dealing with a person who has built up this image for a very long period of time. And now this person is aging. The body physically is getting tired. They are burning out. You know what I mean? They are aging with time. Maybe that time they are running into their 50s. Maybe sometime they are 60s. They are burning out. But at the same time, they have got this image that they cannot destroy. So you see, the body, nature is taking its course whereby the body is aging and they're getting tired. But at the same time, they have got that image that they've built up over the years. And that image they cannot destroy. So that is a very subconscious thing which is actually running in their brain. So what will usually happen is that now they're going to start usually to expose themselves. So that's when you see the covert ones, the ones who have always been covert, like hiding behind the scenes and doing all this trickery behind the scenes. They're now aging. And now this thing is starting to come out to the surface, whereby now they can no longer be able to contain that image that they have been hiding. So they can no longer contain the masks. They can no longer hide these images for a long period of time. The masks are now starting to slip. And I've experienced this thing as well when I was unmasking the narcissistic parent. So when I found out that actually I was dealing with a narcissistic parent all my entire life, it had also to do with age, because a time comes whereby they can no longer hide their true identity. They are so desperate for supply, and they are so desperate for fuel and victims. But at the same time, they can no longer manipulate people the way they used to, or say the things they used to say when they were younger. So at this point in time, they have got this thing which is coming out of the surface to show, because they can no longer be able to contain that image, or sometimes even hide in a covert way, the same way that they used to do very many years ago. That is how I was able to catch up with the narcissistic parent. Like you guys have told you, I've been a scapegoat of the family. Now, a lot of you guys are wondering, do these guys ever come to that sense of awakening whereby they can be able to know they have really destroyed people? You know what I mean? They have destroyed their own family, they have destroyed their own children, they have crumbled their own businesses. Their own businesses have been falling in front of their eyes. And actually, they've been running away from shame, and they've been trying to blame other people for them having lost their businesses, or having lost their finances, or things like that, or even sometimes their homes. So now that's when you see a lot of these people, they're starting to become very vulnerable. So when they become very vulnerable, remember that now nobody at this point wants to be with them, because remember that they have always had children. For example, they have got children. It could have been a narcissistic parent who has have a lot of children, or could have been married or something like that. Even sometimes it could have been your friends. But this time now they are burning out, and over the years they have destroyed people. A few of them have caught up with them, but there is some people who have actually not caught up with them. They have actually never really understood what they are for their entire lives. But you see now at this point in time, they are getting isolated, because it's like a lot of people are running away from them. Nobody doesn't want to do, doesn't have anything to do with them. Everybody doesn't want anything to do with those individuals. So they have lost a lot of family, friends, members, friends, relatives, and everything. So most of the times it's turning out to that point whereby now they're starting to get isolated, because people are now starting to understand that these people they're dealing with, they have been dealing with, they have been dealing with the devil in human form. All right. So it comes to that point whereby those individuals now, they can no longer be able to fish for supply, because like I've told you, their body is running out of gas. And now all the masks are sleeping. They could have been wearing like 10 masks their entire life, and people have been used to these masks, but at this moment in time they are getting old, and all these masks are coming out to the surface, because they can no longer be able to hide the same way that they used to do. So everybody is eventually running away from them and separating themselves from them. They don't want anything to do with them. That is the moment when they are becoming very, very desperate. Because remember that these individuals, they have been surviving all their entire life on other people's energy. But now they do not have an energy source or fuel supply for them to thrive. So now they are really burning out and they are going downhill. So it's all going down for the narcissist. Now you see, that is the moment when, like I've told you guys over and over again, that this whole thing is demonic and spiritual. So what is usually happening is that now those demons that have been harboring their entire life for this entire time, they are going to be abandoned by these demons. I remember doing a video couple of could have been a month or two ago, and I've told you guys the time is coming when these demons are actually abandoning this narcissist. So when these demons abandon this narcissist, that's when they are going to become very, very powerless. You know what I mean? Because anybody they come into contact with, they're going to try to apply their narcissistic tendencies in broad daylight, whereby even actually somebody, even a young kid can see that this particular individual is toxic. And normally at that point in time, it is very difficult for them to get even the slightest fuel source of supply. Now that's when everybody is living their lives, and eventually these demons are going to realize that this body they have been using as a vessel is no longer in control of everything, and they can no longer do the same work or the same job like they've always done their entire life. So that is when now these demons are going to abandon them, and they're going to actually sometimes move on. Like I've told you guys sometime in my videos, when these demons abandon these narcissists, most of the time, sometimes they can actually decide to move on to somebody else. So this could be a person, for example, who has been the child of that person, who has been very close to them. Most of the times we're talking about the golden child. I've even promised you guys to do a video about the golden child. So these demons are now moving on to somebody else. And this narcissist, that is when you're going to see for the very first time who this person you've been dealing with, they really are on a very spiritual level. You're going to see that little kid, you know what I mean? That little kid who was abandoned at a very young age, who had to adopt these methods of survival, who had to do everything in their power to make sure that they are going to thrive and to survive, regardless of whether they were supposed to destroy other individuals for them to achieve that. You know what I mean? So that's when you're going to see a very small, vulnerable kid inside this big body that you're seeing, this big aging body that you're seeing in front of you. You're going to see that the very, very small, vulnerable kid. You know what I mean? So vulnerable to an extent that even just one word you may tell that individual, they are going to actually crack down and break down. You know what I mean? So that is the moment when you're starting to see these particular narcissists now, they are starting to become very extremely vulnerable. And in that moment, they do not have the power they used to have. They no longer have that support system that they used to have when they were younger in their in their age, in their time. That's when they're going to start recalling the moment when they actually lost track of their lives. So you see, at a certain point in their lives when they were younger, that moment whereby it was the turning point for the narcissist, for them to be able to move on into that narcissism and start doing the things that they've always done. That's when they are going to start remembering everything that they've always done. They're going to remember all the victims that they've destroyed over the years. They're going to remember the people they have killed. They are going to remember the damages they have done to the people. And that is when you are going to see that narcissist is going to break down face flat on the ground. Why do I call it vulnerable? Vulnerable because you see, at this point in time now, they are so vulnerable whereby, number one, they're isolated. Everybody knows them for who they are. People are starting to see them because remember that now they have moved from being covert to being overt. So nobody wants to deal with that kind of energy. So anybody they have always known their entire lives has run away from them and has got nothing to do with them, even doesn't want anything to do with them for starters. What is now happening is that now the narcissist is going to come into that moment of reckoning, whereby they are going to start feeling remorse. So a lot of you guys have been wondering, do these guys ever feel remorse for this thing that they are doing? Do they ever sit down and start to think that why are they actually continuously destroying people non-stop? Like a cycle from day one, from day two, from day three. So it's like they're going in cycles and they're leaving a lot of victims behind their back. That is the moment when the narcissist is going to realize that actually they have done and they have decided to choose a wrong path. So most of the times when the narcissist is coming down, when those demons have actually abandoned the narcissist, like I've said in my videos, that is when you're going to see the narcissist is going to start getting a lot of problems with their health. Most of the times you're going to see them, they're already bedridden. Some of them, they're even somewhere in shelters, sleeping in homeless shelters, the stuff like that. Some of them are even sleeping on the streets. Because at this point in time, the demon has already taken what belongs to them. They have given them these things at some point. But at this point forth was when they're aging, the demon is also carrying along with them whatever they had to give those individuals during the course of their life. So now they are very vulnerable. They do not have money. They don't have a place to sleep. They already have divorces, maybe one or two or three. A lot of times you will see those narcissists. They have about three divorces. They have been married three times. They've been married four times. Stuff like that. They do not have even contact with their children for the last 20 years. So you've seen they have had children, like for example, 20, 30 years ago, but they don't even know the names of their children. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, you're dealing with a demon, first of all. The people that you've been dealing with, they're demonically possessed. So these people, they do not understand the value of family, of relationships, of love, of real genuine connections with anyone. You know what I mean? So that's the reason as to why you see everywhere they go, they are able to forget something in an instant. You've been married with them for 20 years, and then they just wake up one day after 20 years and they tell you, hey, listen, I've got somebody new. So you can always move on with your life. I've got nothing to do with you. Without even feeling anything that this person has been 20 years here supporting me from day one. They do not have that feeling that there is people who are genuinely helping them to connect with their true self. You know what I mean? So that's why they are able actually to dump you and jump on and carry on and go around and sleep with somebody else and date somebody else and move somebody to a new country, to a new place, to a new neighborhood, to a new town. It doesn't matter for them. That's what they've always done. Now, when the narcissist reaches that point of reckoning, that point of breakdown, they are aging. There's no supply. There's no wife. There's no money. There's no homes. They're homeless. They're in shelters. They're in hospitals. They're in a very difficult state. That is when they are going to remember everything that I've done to the individuals. And it's most of the times you're going to see a lot of times your father may actually ask some people to call you. So your father may reach that point, for example, on their deathbed. They could be sometime on their deathbed. Most of the time, this thing happens when they reach their last point in life, their last minutes or hours in life. So that's when you're going to see sometimes your father or your mother, for example, they were the problem all these years, all these past years, 30 years of your life. You're going to see people reaching out to you. They're going to tell you, listen, your father wants to talk to you. Your mother wants to talk to you. Most of the times, the reason why they're actually inviting you to talk to you because they know that they have reached their last minute and there's no point of return. So they are now calling you so that they can be able to apologize to you and actually acknowledge the things that they've always done. So you've had a lot of stories whereby people have been called. There's, for example, a father who is dying in the hospital, or there is somebody who is dying out on the street, and they are actually very desperately looking for their children. They are looking for their connections, family members, and children, and ex-husbands or ex-wives or things like that. They are actually looking for you to apologize because for the very first time in their lives, they are coming face to face with the reality that is game over for them. You know what I mean? So they are feeling this guilt because they do not know what to expect on the other side. You know what I mean? They are in that point whereby they know that they're going to transition to the other side, and they do not know what to expect on the other side. Even most of the cases, you will see them, they're very much scared and very much afraid of death. So they will call you sometime, they will tell you, listen, so many years ago, I stole your money, or I broke down your house, or I burnt your house, or I killed your children, or I caused you a car accident, or the things like that. You are going to see them sometime, they are going to come around for the very first time. That little fragile child is looking for any way that people can actually forgive them for the things that they've always done. So they're now coming around and trying to see, can you actually forgive them? Can you genuinely forgive them? Sometimes you'll hear things like, they did not know how they did those things and why they did those things. It's the reason as to why I've told you guys very many times in my videos. This whole thing is spiritual and this whole thing is demonic. So the narcissist is demonically possessed. Most of the things they are doing, they do not have control over those things. Even the things they are saying, sometimes you see them, they will say something only to turn around and they have forgotten what they have said. That is because they are being warned by this demon, which is actually controlling them and aiding them to do this kind of thing that they're doing to people. Very, very dangerous and horrible things. So sometimes you will see them saying things like, for example, listen, forgive me, many years ago, I did this or I did that, I said this or I say that. And the only thing they need from you is forgiveness because they know at that particular point in time, they are going to transition to the other side and they do not know what to expect. So they are very much dead terrified about this transition. They do not know what to do. They do not know what to expect, and they cannot go back from day one to change things and do things the right way. So it's too late for that. You know what I mean? Is when you're going to say a lot of times apologies are going to start coming in at the end. So when you're out there and you're starting to hear a lot of people calling you that, hey, listen, come and visit your dad. You know what I mean? Your dad is in hospital, they're dying. They have about 24 hours to live, or they're about 2 days to live. That's when you're going to see a lot of times people are going to invite you to come and actually talk to your parents or your exes because they have got something very important to tell you. But the very first thing first thing they're going to tell you is that they never recognized or realized what they were doing in that time. That's the first thing. The second thing they're going to tell you is that they're going to apologize because at that moment they realize that actually they're powerless. All the power that they thought they had initially when they were destroying people around them, all that power is gone. So they are completely like balls. Like I've told you, these are balloons. They're like it's like a dead rock somewhere on the ground, just waiting to die. You know what I mean? There's no power in them. There's no energy in them. They're very fragile. They are very vulnerable in that moment, in that moment, at that point in time, and they do not know what to expect on this point of the transition. So that's when you're going to hear a lot of times they may come out to you and apologize. Okay. So all I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to narcissistic abuse, understand that we've been there. We have healed. Like I've said in the beginning of this video, it's very possible to heal. You can heal. You know what I mean? Just put in the work, you're going to heal. But the other thing I want to tell you is that learn how to forgive these individuals. Over the course of my videos, I've told you guys one thing in particular. I've told you guys, remember to forgive these individuals. These individuals, they're under control and under possession, and they do not have any control of what they are doing. So, however horrible the things may look or the things may seem, you need to remember that these individuals, they do not have full control of their emotions and they do not know what they are doing at that point. Because, like I've said, they're under possession. Forgive these individuals. Do not forgive them to stay. Just forgive them for yourself because you need that forgiveness in your heart so that you can be able to heal. You know what I mean? And forget about them and heal. Walk away and work on yourself. You will heal. But on the other side, remember that there's most likely going to come a time, especially if you've been dealing with this kind of narcissistic parents, demonic narcissistic parents and things like that, they are going to come to a point whereby they are going to become fragile. It's like a dead rock which is waiting to die. And that's when they are going to actually try to contact you and they may even sometimes come and apologize. If it has happened to you, I would like to know about that in the comment section below, ladies and gentlemen. And until then, you always do know that I love and appreciate your support. You can always book a session with me, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to. For those of you who would like to donate or support my channel, you can always find the links you need in the description section below. And until then, I'll catch you guys in my next one. There's almost signing out. Much love and blessings.